Today, we are diving into a question that could, quite literally, change the way we practice medicine for every single one of us. We're going to look at some incredible new research that uses our own DNA to make life-saving drugs safer and way more effective. So, let's start with this. It is a really terrifying question, and one that has haunted doctors for decades. You have two people, they have the same diagnosis, they get the same exact drug, but the outcomes are just wildly different. One person is saved, but the other suffers these devastating toxic side effects. How is that possible? Well, it turns out the answer is written right inside of us, in our genes.
You know, chemotherapy is, without a doubt, one of our most powerful weapons against cancer. It saves so many lives. But let's be honest, it's also kind of like a sledgehammer. And for really common chemo drugs, like one called fluorouracil, somewhere between 10 and 30% of patients have a severe, sometimes even fatal reaction. I mean, this isn't some small fringe risk. It's a huge clinical problem.
And that brings us to the hero of our story today, this field of science called pharmacogenomics. Okay, it's a mouthful, I know. People call it PGX for short. The easiest way to think about it is this. Your DNA is basically the instruction manual for your body, and pharmacogenomics is the science of reading that specific manual to figure out exactly how your body is going to react to a specific drug.
So here's the crucial part. Sometimes, in that big instruction manual, there's a tiny little typo, a genetic variant. Now, for certain chemo drugs, the key instruction is a gene called DPYD. That gene tells your body how to break down the medicine. But if you have one of these specific typos in your DPYD gene, your body just can't process the drug correctly. And suddenly, a treatment that's supposed to save your life can actually become a poison. So to figure out just how common this problem really is, researchers over in the UK kicked off this massive scientific detective story. They tapped into the data from the 100,000 Genomes Project, which is this huge library of human genetic information, to start searching for clues.
And to find the answer, the scientists got clever. They basically took two giant piles of data and smashed them together. On one side, you have the complete genetic codes, the genomes of over 76,000 people. And on the other side, you have their anonymous hospital records. By linking these two massive data sets, they could finally draw a direct line between a person's genetic typos and what actually happened to them when they took a drug.
So what did this huge investigation actually find? Well, the results were pretty staggering. It turns out this problem is way more common than you might think. Here's the first big headline number. A whopping 62.7%. That's nearly 2/3 of the people in the study were carrying at least one genetic variant that could mess with how their body responds to common cancer drugs. So let's be clear, this isn't some rare thing affecting a tiny number of people. It's a reality for the majority of us. Okay, let's turn that percentage into people. Based on what they found, the researchers estimate that in England alone, more than 14,500 patients every single year could be spared from severe, toxic side effects if we just had this genetic information before a doctor wrote the prescription.
And here it is. This is the smoking gun. The study proved this link wasn't just a theory. They found that patients with that DPYD gene typo who were treated with a specific chemo had over a 5 times greater risk of neutropenia. That's a really dangerous drop in your immune cells. And a nearly 4 times higher risk of acute kidney failure. I mean, this is concrete, undeniable proof of the danger.
But you know, finding a problem is one thing. Proving you have a solution that actually works is a whole different ballgame. So the next step was to see if this genetic info could really make a difference in a real functioning hospital. They set up a pilot study with over 7,000 patients, and they started sending these DPYD gene test results back to the treating doctors. And the results? The doctors found the information incredibly helpful. For most of the patients who had one of these risky gene variants, the doctors said that the genetic test was genuinely informative for changing the drug dose, which could have saved them from serious harm. It worked. It actually worked in the real world. This just blows the door wide open for a future where prescriptions are truly personalized. But as we look toward that future, this research also pointed out a really critical challenge that we absolutely have to solve. So here's the catch. This chart shows different gene variants across several populations. And if you look closely, you'll see that most of what we know comes from people of European ancestry. This creates a really dangerous knowledge gap. If we don't have the data for people from diverse backgrounds, we can't make personalized medicine work for everybody. It's a huge, flashing sign that we need more inclusive genetic research, and we need it now. And really, this is the bottom line. An expert editor who reviewed this study, he summed it up perfectly.
He said that this kind of genetic testing could be just as revolutionary for treating patients as the discovery of the genetic mutations that actually cause cancer in the first place. That's not just an improvement, that is a fundamental shift in how we think about medicine.
So let's end with this thought. We are walking into an era where medicine isn't just about treating a disease, it's about treating an individual. A future where a simple genetic test could make sure that the medicine you get is the one that's safest and most effective, specifically for you.